The Labstamp system is an innovative system that provides researchers with a quick and easy method for permanent mouse identification. To ensure the integrity of your research data, the Labstamp system uses advanced technology that ensures consistency, readability, and durability for mouse identification that is unsurpassed in the market. This video will provide the necessary training for operators to create permanent and easily readable IDs in just minutes. The Labstamp system includes the applicator machine, restraint cartridges, ink slides, needle cartridges, a tail gauge, and tail oil. The applicator automates the process of applying a user-defined tattoo onto the mouse. It has an entry port that houses a robotic arm, keypad for operator entry, and a display for instruction and status information. There are 2 restraint cartridges available, a small cartridge for tattooing young mice and a large cartridge for tattooing adult mice. Each restraint cartridge has a platform with a spring-loaded tail bed, a tail cover which holds the ink slide and restrains the tail, and a dome which is tinted red and vented to keep the mouse comfortable. The small restraint cartridge is designed with a smaller V-grooved tail bed for smaller mice, and the large restraint cartridge has a larger V-grooved tail bed for larger mice. It is important to choose the correct restraint size to ensure a permanent tattoo in the dermal layer of the tail. Disposable tri-cell ink slides are available in either black or UV green ink. The ink slides contain FDA-cleared microencapsulated ink that remains in place indefinitely where applied, is safer for the animal, and water-based for easy cleanup. The ink is housed in 3 individual ink compartments for each ID character to consistently deliver sufficient pigment for the most durable and readable ID. There are 2 sizes of needle cartridges, one colored yellow and the other green. The yellow cartridge has slightly longer needles than the green cartridge. The tail gauge is used on each mouse to determine the appropriate restraint platform and needle cartridge combination. The tail gauge is comprised of 5 slots of increasing widths. 2 slots fall within a red colored zone and 2 fall within a blue colored zone. These colored zones correspond to the red and blue color coding of the small and large restraint cartridges, respectively. Above the 4 slots are yellow and green colored dots. These colored dots correspond to the yellow and green colored needles the user selects for each tattoo. The 5th slot on the far left of the tail gauge has the international circle/symbol above it. It identifies mice that are too small to be used in the Labstamp system at this time. Proper use of the tail gauge is critical to ensure readable and durable tattoos are applied to the dermal layer. Relying on the age or weight of a mouse to determine the appropriate needle size or restraint cartridge will not guarantee a quality tattoo. The tail oil is used to ensure good needle penetration into the tail. To get started, first turn on the Labstamp by pressing the power switch on the back. Next, take hold of the mouse by its tail and place it on the restraint platform with its head toward the handle. Pick up the red dome and depress the 2 silver buttons on either side, opening the tail grippers. Lower the dome over the mouse, keeping the silver buttons pressed and the grippers open. Set the red dome in place on the restraint cartridge platform until the magnet guides are engaged, and then release the silver buttons to secure the mouse in place. Next, measure the mouse tail using the tail gauge. When measuring the mouse's tail, the tail gauge should be positioned as close as practical to the tail grippers, which is where the tail exits the red dome. It is also important that the tail gauge be held vertically and square with respect to the tail. Starting with the smallest slot, lower the gauge onto the tail, moving to the larger slots until the gauge drops onto the tail. The appropriate slot on the tail gauge should drop under its own weight over the tail. A snug fit is permissible, but do not force the gauge onto the tail. If the tail is too large for any of the slots, the animal is too large to be tattooed. Once the appropriate slot for the mouse tail is determined, identify the corresponding restraint cartridge and needle cartridge on the tail gauge. In some cases, you may need to change the mouse to the other restraint than what you first selected to measure the tail. Any time that a mouse is placed or repositioned, either on the same restraint or on a different restraint, it is important to use the tail gauge to confirm the appropriate combination of restraint and needle cartridge. Now install the needle cartridge, which is a very simple process. Press the Change Needle button. Wait for the gun head to emerge. Install the needle cartridge by lining up the needle cartridge clip arms with the slots in the gun head. Gently press the needle cartridge until the clip arms snap into place. Then press the Change Needle or Start button to retract the gun head. Apply tail oil to the entire top surface of the mouse tail that is resting on the rubber tail bed. Avoid getting tail oil on the tail grippers. Insert the ink slide into the tail cover, print side up, until it comes to a stop and lines up with the two alignment holes. Hold the tail cover so that the red and blue alignment holes align with the corresponding red and blue pins on the platform. With one hand holding the tail straight back and centered over the tapered V-groove on the tail bed, gently lower the tail cover over the top of the mouse tail until the magnets engage, holding the tail in place. Insert the restraint cartridge into the applicator until it reaches a hard stop. When inserted properly, the restraint cartridge status indicator light will change from red to green. Enter the alphanumeric ID on the Labstamp keypad. Any combination of 3 characters may be selected. If an incremental series of characters will be tattooed, depress the Auto Increment button first before entering ID characters in order to enable the machine to automatically select the next in the series of ID characters. Press the Start button to initiate tattoo application. The activity of the mouse is normal during any tattoo process. The restraint cartridge will hold the tail still during the entire tattoo application. Once the applicator has started tattooing, the process may be aborted at any time by pressing the Stop button. The needle cartridge will immediately rise up and retract, allowing you to safely remove the restraint cartridge holding the mouse. When identifying many mice for a study, we recommend having additional restraints on hand so that one mouse can be restrained and measured while another is being tattooed in the Labstamp applicator. After tattooing is complete, the system will beep. You may now remove the restraint cartridge. With the animal still restrained, additional procedures such as a tail biopsy can be conveniently done at this time. Remove the tail cover by pulling straight up and wipe excess ink from the tattoo with gauze or a cotton-tipped applicator coated with tail oil. Take hold of the mouse tail, depress the silver buttons to open the tail grippers, remove the red dome, and return the mouse to its cage. You are now ready to ID the next mouse.